Newsom fails to launch in Trump attack. Technical difficulties plague the screen. Did you all see this yesterday? This was hilarious. Newsom had a live video with horrific. There were all of these channels on YouTube and elsewhere, and they were trying to show this was going to be a big thing. They were going to show Newsom coming down hard. It had just been revealed. Newsom had lied, of course, saying that Trump's a stone cold liar when he's with everything he said, but also lying about the phone call that they had. And then Trump revealed the call log and that they indeed had I think it was a 16-minute conversation. And then he wanted to jump on. And so this is one of the elements that needs to be discussed about the attack on Western kind. And therefore on the West, on America, on Canada, on etc., is that anti-whiteism, the ideology, is ubiquitous. There is or are no individuals that you could just pluck out of the system and everything would be better. Everything would improve. Or that would engender some sort of resistance. Now, that's of course all theoretical because you're not plucking anybody out of anywhere. Never going to happen. But here we see at this first layer that we're covering today, the government enforcing and acting on anti-whiteism, anti-white governance. It's only stymied at the moment by Trump anomaly, we could say. And it's manifested, at least in this article, as Gavin Newsom, the governor. He failed to launch in an anti-Trump attack on Tuesday when he released a live video that was plagued with audio difficulties. So you're going to see as we leaf through these items here today, you're going to see that the anti-whiteism, it comes from everywhere. What's the thing then that connects it? It's coming from governance. It's coming from Hollywood. It's coming from people in the streets. It's coming from solo activists. It's coming from the muscle, the real ne'er-do-wells that are willing to kill you, maim you, blind you, etc. It's coming from all of these different angles and more, and including billionaire heiresses it's coming from. So the ideology has infected all of them. That's the thing that's the same across the board, is the ideology has infected all of them. There's no one sector to address as if you could. Again, that's just theoretical thinking. That's just in the laboratory. Now, I find it, if people want to say, be adults, and they want to say, okay, starting this conversation, a theoretical conversation, we don't have control over what's happening in society. We can't make these wishes come true. If only Gavin were gone. If only Nancy Pelosi were gone. If only Karen Bass were gone. If you're going to say you're for theoretical and entertainment purposes, you're going to talk about these things that way, then okay, you're wasting a little time, in my opinion. But I would rather have that conversation, a theoretical wish listing conversation like that, than I would about sports ball or about movies. So at least it has a little bit more value. But you got to be you got to be mature. You got to be responsible. That's not doing anything. That's not accomplishing anything. Saying that, for example, you're going to see a lot of these Republicans and young Republican groups talking about different ways that they could address Gavin Newsom, different ways that they could. I literally heard, I should have saved it to share with you all, young Republicans talking about how to flip California red again. What does red mean now? Is that anywhere remotely to white well-being? Anywhere remotely near white well-being? I don't care how red California is if it's a anti-white, non-white state. Who cares, Republic cucks? That's not a win. I'm tired of seeing these like Boise, Idaho, wide-eyed, deer in the headlight white people who are like, well, we could flip this Republican. And then what? Who cares? What matters is our people. What matters is our biospirit, that we have well-being. What matters is that our expression in the world remains manifest. We are going to need to be a super majority for that. You're not going to be able to have your white topia by way of abstractions. White cucks. I mean, really, the cuckery in the white race is limitless. It is absolutely limitless. Well, I'll still get to have my lattes and I'll still get to have my manicured streets and Western civilization once all of these people from all of these other lands who are just hard workers, and maybe they love baby Jesus too, they're just hard workers, once they just adopt all of our ideals that aren't ours. No, they aren't ours. They're everybody's ideals. But once they adopt the everybody's ideals, then I'll be able to have my white topia, get my latte, go to the cinema, not be gang raped. No, Boise, Idaho whites. No, Wisconsin whites. No, with your giant, absolutely Bambi in the headlights of anti-whiteism, in the headlights of the combine that is anti-whiteism, chewing up everything in front of it and spitting you out the back. It's like the combine, that's the Death Star wood chipper. All right. That's what's coming for you. You're not going to be able to have Whitopia. I don't care if you can turn California red. I don't care how many conversations you think are taking place across California, that they're sick and tired of the fires and they're sick and tired of the who cares. The official X account belonging to Gavin Newsom shared a live video feed. Look at, here is the wheel of death right now of him addressing the camera in what was presumably an anti-Trump speech over the ongoing anti-ICE riots. Riot is what takes place after football games, sports games. You mean the anti-white terror? The anti-white terror in Los Angeles. The problem was that nobody could hear what he was saying. No sound. There's no audio. The audio eventually restored Newsom's speech, but the beginning was still unavailable. So it came in, at near the end of what he had to say. Imagine just, we can fire it up for years and years and years online, and it's all working. The government gets involved. The governor of California, and they're like, there's no sound. From the bits that could be heard, the governor charged the president with overriding the rule of law by sending National Guard troops to quell the ongoing anti-white terror in Los Angeles. Do you see how much better that sounds? But those whites in Boise, Idaho, and white Wisconsin and all, they're not going to say that. They're not going to call it the anti-white terror because of the social morality, which is the anti-white immoral imperative. It's wrong. It's not the right thing to say, Jason. It's wrong. As Breitbart News reported, violent anti-ICE protests erupted over the weekend in response to the enforcement of immigration laws. Is that from his speech? No, that's from your reportage. Due to the lack of control, President Donald Trump ordered 4,000 National Guard troops into the area so ICE could conduct operations. The president has also ordered hundreds of U.S. Marines into the area. We saw the sweet Huey Cobra. Bring that to my house. I love it. To help keep the peace, Democrats have condemned the move as an escalation tactic. Quote, the federal government is taking over the California National Guard and deploying 2,000 soldiers in Los Angeles, not because there's a shortage of law enforcement, which of course they weren't using, but because they want a spectacle. Don't give them one. Never use violence. Speak out peacefully, he said, which, as far as I know, have been his only statements about don't be violent, speak out peacefully. He went on about Donald Trump wanting your fealty. Now, as the president of the United States, he deserves your fealty, but especially if you are in the employ of any of the state or federal governments. But Gavin Newsom says, don't give him your fealty. And I wonder if I were saying something like this, if I were in an elected official, servant, if I were to say, don't obey Barack Obama when he was president, I wonder what might happen. I wonder what might happen to me. I would probably never see the light of day again. But hey, nowadays, he's going to be fine because he's anti-white, because the morality of the West is anti-whiteism. So he'll be fine. Something that is not going to pass without mention is that this is a what? A sedition city. This is a sedition city. You could say seditious, but it's a sedition city. This is a city in open revolt. Now, if you had been referring to these cities as sedition cities all along, rather than sanctuary, which is where they take abused horses and abused dogs and abused cats, and your mind, therefore, associates all big time positive, cuddly emotions and thoughts with sanctuary. If you had listened to me and to the leaders in the House of Swash, you would have been referring to them as sedition or seditious cities. And then when this act of sedition by the governor is spoken into the ether, now you have a lot more of a case to take him down and to take others down in that government. This government is in open revolt to the United States of America. Mark my words. If cities were to ever assume the posture, if Republican cities that care about white people, that are going to inhibit, either intentionally or unintentionally, the infliction of injury on white people and Western civilization, and they assumed the same posture as these Democrat sedition cities, the Democrats in the federal government will not be referring to them as sanctuaries. They will not be referring to them as Second Amendment cities. They will refer to them as insurgent cities or insurgent governments or insurrection cities or insurrection governments. And then what else will happen? The idiots in the Republican Party and all of the conservatives and all of the schmucks out there will begin using that exact same verbiage. Once again, the meme curative. Do not give them the names of their taking, and do not take the names of their giving. They want to call it a sanctuary city. Automatically, you know not to call it. They just made Los Angeles a sanctuary, what they want it to be called, city. It is a seditious city. It is a sedition city. And this is the governor of a state full of seditious cities. So it's time to act against this revolt against the authority. Now, Gavin Newsom, he filed a charge in federal court to stop Donald Trump. I don't know if it's here. But he filed a case suing Donald Trump and the feds to force the National Guard to be removed from Los Angeles. And it has thus far failed because the case is absurd. If you took a look at it at all, they said really, I mean, the people that are writing these things, America really is, with anti-whiteism getting dumber and dumber. But of course, these people don't care whether it meets the definition of a legitimate case or not. They say things like, what's happening right now is unprecedented, but then they state the precedent of it happening in the past. So, of course, in the past, but they state the precedent. And that goes on throughout the suit. So the court has granted Trump and the administration time to assemble their case to push back. But for now, the Guard is allowed to be there. The Marines are allowed to be there. And God, I am hoping that the anti-whites in the streets try to really take them on. Having said that, before we leave this article, note here that this is anti-whiteism in state and city governance and in the courts. They wouldn't have filed such a spurious suit if they didn't know that they could file it with a friendly judge and potentially win, even though it's spurious, and have to work its way up again to the Supreme Court. So pay full attention here. Anti-whiteism in the city government and governments we're seeing across the United States, in the city governments, in the state government, by way of Gavin Newsom at the moment, the chief figure of the state government. Keep in mind that this doesn't disappear with an election. It doesn't disappear with a party. You see a lot of these Republicans running for office across the country, and increasingly, they are not only anti-white, maybe not as anti-white as some of the Democrats, but they're anti-white and non-white. Just like now we look at Kashin Patel, who, if you remember, when he was nominated, all of these white Boise, Idaho conservatives, wide-eyed and idiotic, brain-dead, vacuous-headed morons, all said, oh, we love Kashin Patel. He's going to do it. He's this amazing man. He's brown. He's brown. Have you looked at him? He's brown. So it's going to be amazing. And everybody like us here who were like, no, we don't want this non-white guy in this position. They used, just like anti-whites on the left, the anti-whites on the right, use the anti-white slur racist. You don't want him just because he's brown. I don't want him because he's non-white. I don't care. Not because of his skin tone. He is not white bio-spiritually. And now the cucks are getting what they deserve. Because this Superman, this brown Superman that was going to reveal it all. Remember, he was going to burn down J. Edgar Hoover building and move FBI out of D.C.? They're building more FBI to investigate us, to investigate you. They're not breaking it apart. They're making it bigger. He gets in there and he says, nope, Epstein killed himself and there's no files to reveal. So that's your brown Superman. He's so tough. How many tweets did you read from Boise, Idaho cucks who were saying, oh, he's amazing. You know how tough he is. Here's a clip of him being tough for entertainment purposes and another clip of being tough for entertainment purposes. And we were all able to see the writing on the wall that if this guy's put under pressure, he's folding. He doesn't have a people here to fight for. He has ideas to fight for, not a people. And when you have ideas to fight for and they come to you with a little bit of pressure, you fold. Like the cheap suit that he and a lot of his people wear. So he has no people, just ideas. And he folded instantly. Yep, the base brown boy was going to come in there and he was going to fix it all for us. Everywhere you turn. If they got a way out, they're going to take it. The leaders of our people have to have nowhere to go. They have to stand on the principle that our fight is for the biospirit of our people. They can't come out and mealy mouth it. They can't come out and say it's for the West. You see me winking? They've got to come out and talk about our people and the victimization of our people. They cannot have any non-white heritage. Zero. Because any non-white heritage, and they'll use that as a get out of jail card. In case you forget, I'm a Mexican. I can't be a white supremacist. Which you and I can't do. So this is governance.